Okay, everybody. Welcome back to the subsection of the Third Triumvirate podcast called Edith's Video Essays. This is part 2 of the video essay titled "The Fall of the Roman Republic was due to the actions of key individuals as opposed to the failings of the institutions that were fundamentally part of the Roman political system." Now, using that as a contention, or like let's say pose that title as a question and then go to what extent you agree, disagree. I'm like here, because obviously the institutions did play a fundamental role, because they were like unwavering and not really adaptable to Rome's expansion, and because the Senate was so conservative, or naturally conservative due to their optimates status, because that was the conservative part of Rome. The political system that once would have worked when Rome was just a little immigrant state ceased to work once Rome kind of became an empire, you know? Anyway, where do we leave off? We left off at Caesar's will and funeral. Okay, what do we remember? The Ides of March. Ides of March meaning the middle of March. So around the middle of March, Julius Caesar was assassinated in 44 BCE. Okay, he was a dictator for about 1 year, long, and he just kind of, like, he was effectively a king, and the Roman people were like, we don't want a king, we hate kings, and then a bunch of conspirators were like, let's kill him, let's get him, and they were like, in the middle of the Senate, so the middle of the, what's that called, the forum, the middle of the forum, and they like killed him to death all the way. He died dead and he couldn't breathe anymore until he died. And then they kind of like, it's like I think Cicero's telling of it, goes like, yeah, and after they did that, they kind of just didn't know what the fuck to do. Like, they killed him and they were like, we did not plan this far ahead. We just got to the killing bit, now what? And everyone was like going like, oh my god, they just killed Caesar, and they're all standing around like, okay, now what do we do? And so in the aftermath of Caesar's death, obviously there was a funeral. Mark Antony organized it, I believe, or yeah, something along those lines. Basically, Caesar's body was displayed very horrifically with all his wounds marked out in wax and stuff like that. So the Roman public could like see it, and it was like, and they were like, ooh, yikes. And then Mark Antony did this big speech where he was like, yo, wait, no. Then his will was read out, and Caesar's will, obviously, if you watched the last video, contained a few key things. First of all, he stated his heir. So his heir was his nephew Octavian, who he adopted through his will, to be his successor. And then there were two secondary heirs. The two secondary heirs were Mark Antony and Decimus Brutus. So Decimus Brutus was also a key conspirator in Caesar's assassination, and also Caesar left his gardens as public gardens, all of his land as public gardens for the Romans, and each Roman got a small section of Caesar's personal money. Like, and then suddenly the Romans were like, we love king. Like, that's literally Rome. They switch up like crazy on Caesar. They didn't even like him while he was alive. As Tom Holland says, even in death, Caesar is a populist. And so Mark Antony kind of has control now over a bunch of stuff. And the Roman people hate all the conspirators who are against Caesar. But sadly, Decimus Brutus, I believe, or was it Marcus Brutus? I believe it might have been Marcus Brutus. So there were two different Brutuses. Marcus Brutus and Cassius, who were both conspirators, key conspirators who were like buddy with Caesar, remained as praetors during this time. So they had imperium, meaning their bodies were holy and they could not be killed. And this ticked Mark Antony the fuck off. He was like, I hate you guys, I hate you. And so Mark Antony, he effectively has control of all of the finances and papers of Caesar. Like, he controls the Caesar's party. And so when Octavian gets wind of like, hey yo boy, you actually are the heir to Rome, he goes, say less. And he's very ambitious, he's 18, and he pulls up to Rome, and Mark Antony is just like, oh nah. Oh nah, boy, you are not getting in here like that. So Mark Antony is obviously control of all Caesar's finances. He gives himself a bunch of stuff. He gives himself like provinces in Gaul, and he like just like heads off to Gaul. And he tries to get Caesar's army to come, like, you know, chill with him. So while he's off in Gaul, Cicero is like, nah, fuck that guy. If he succeeds and does a lot of good stuff in Gaul, he will simply be the next Caesar. Octavian, do something. And Octavian is like, fine. And so he basically turns like Caesar's army against Mark Antony and like takes the army. And Mark Antony is like, what the fuck? What the hell? And so they now have the army. But Octavian and Mark Antony realize, they look at each other and they go, wait, we both have one thing we want. And that is to avenge Caesar. Let's kill the conspirators. So they actually become really buddy-buddy, and they become best friends, and they form the second triumvirate. And you're saying, Edith, if there's only Mark Antony Octavian, how is it the second triumvirate? Would that be the first duumvirate? Well, there's another guy. He's called Lepidus. Lepidus, he's just here. He's just there. Like, he's really like, there's always a duo and a trio, and Lepidus was just kind of like, I want to avenge Caesar too. And they were like, bro, who are you? Okay. And they joined together and formed the second triumvirate. The importance of the second triumvirate. You know how the first triumvirate was an illegal alliance, like really like illegal, and like Caesar got in a lot of trouble for it, and he was going to get arrested, and he was declared an enemy of the state and had to hide in Gaul for 10 years. Yeah, the second triumvirate was legal. It was codified in law. The second triumvirate literally just ruled Rome, which is what the first triumvirate did, but just on the DL. And so this is the end of the Roman Republic. This is a new form of government. The second triumvirate literally ruled everything. They were three emperors in a way. And they all got different provinces. So Lepidus got Africa. Mark Antony got the East, I believe, where Egypt is. I wonder who's there. And yeah, so Octavian got the West, Antony got the East, and Lepidus got Africa. And they began proscriptions. So you guys remember Sulla? They did the shit Sulla did, except you know 500 people got killed during Sulla's proscriptions, including a bunch of like innocent people. Like this one guy who was just like a poet who kind of vaguely looked like a popularis, similar facial vein to some guy that they wanted dead, got stabbed to death by the Roman public for no reason. Yeah, they killed like 2,000 people. What was it? 300 senators and 2,000 equites. Equites were the cavalry class, so they were rich because they had enough money to feed and train a horse, which is expensive. They're like race cars back in those days, you know? They had effectively had a Lambo. And also Cicero got executed because Antony was like, fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. He was trying to fuck me over before, so I'm gonna kill you. And so now we get to the triumvirs versus the conspirators. So, in your conspirators, you have Brutus and Cassius. In your triumvirs, you have Octavian, Lepidus, Mark Antony. And basically, Octavian, Lepidus, Mark Antony, they want to avenge Caesar. Who killed Caesar? These two guys. A lot more of them, but these are the ones who had like the praetorships, so they had imperium, so they're kind of like left over. And like, I'm assuming during the proscriptions, a lot of conspirators got killed, or at least even just during like the mass outrage that Rome decided they suddenly loved the king, that they like killed a bunch of the conspirators, but they couldn't kill those two, and those two were still left. Basically, they regrouped in the east, got some large armies. They went, yeah, boys, and they marched, and they killed. Well, they didn't kill them, actually. They defeated Brutus and Cassius at the Battle of Philippi. Philippi. They killed them at the Battle of Philippi, and in 42 BCE in Macedonia, and Cassius and Brutus committed suicide. So that's kind of long. Like, if I was someone going into battle and then the person I was trying to get committed suicide, I'd be like, fuck. It's like so anticlimactic. Anyway, yeah, so now this is where it gets bad. The second triumvirate, much like the first triumvirate, there was conflict within it. There was internal conflict. And it, after, like, the Battle of Philippi, Rome was kind of left defenseless. Like, Rome's defenders were gone. The triumvirates controlled Rome, and they weren't there. They were all in their different districts. Like, Antony was in the east, Egypt and Asia Minor, and Octavian was in the west. So he was Italy, Gaul, Spain. And then Lepidus just had Africa, low-key. So they had to, like, figure out a way to, like, make sure that they were, like, peaceful. So Mark Antony married Octavian's sister, Octavia. And that was marriage pacts, secured alliances. It was just like a thing. Like that's what they used. That's all. If you were either a Vestal Virgin or a marriage pact, if you were going to be an important woman in Rome, I fear. Or you were virtuous, like Lucretia. Yeah, that's it. There was some battles with this guy called Sextus Pompey, so the son of Pompey. He disrupted some grain supplies, and then Octavian and Agrippa got him. They defeated him. Lepidus tried to seize Sicily, and Octavian was like, oh, and I'm taking away your power. That is the last time you try and play with me, bitch. And yeah, so Lepidus, that sucked for him. Antony gives the Eastern Territories to Cleopatra. Because, by the way, Antony is now in a very serious relationship with Cleopatra. My headcanon is that, obviously, Mark Antony and Julius Caesar were in a deeply homosexual relationship, and after Caesar's death, Mark Antony was like, I need to avenge him, and then he went, I miss him. Where can I find solace? Maybe in his ex-wife and the mother of Caesar's child. I don't know, it just feels a bit fishy. Also, Mark Antony at this point starts wearing eyeliner, and he effectively, in the eyes of the Roman, he becomes a femboy, and they do not like that. They do not like that at all. So, yeah. Also, Antony divorced Octavia, which is Octavian's sister, so the marriage pact was broken, so they officially can have beef now, and also it's almost certainly because he was with Cleopatra, who's foreign, not Roman, so he betrayed a Roman woman for a foreign woman. That is like so not chill, brother. And yeah, Battle of Actium was crazy. I'm not gonna lie, the Battle of Actium was like this shit was kind of like sad. Basically, they went to go fight this guy Agrippa, Mark Antony, using the ships that Cleopatra gave him because he didn't have much army loyal to him at this point. And the army that was still loyal to him and that was still fighting for him, he left in their ships. He left them and like went back to Cleopatra midway through the battle because he got scared. Yeah, and then Mark Antony and Cleopatra commit suicide. Okay. Anyway, let's talk about the transition from Rome as a republic to Rome as a principate. Okay. Octavian returns to Rome, presenting himself as the restorer of the peace, so Pax Romana. He rewards troops, he recognizes, he reorganizes provinces, and he reduces the Senate's numbers. So he controls the army and the provinces, but maintains the appearance of Republican government. So basically, he is effectively emperor, but he just doesn't say it and doesn't look like it. Like, he has the power just everyone thinks that the Senate's still a thing. And first settlement in 27 BCE, Octavian returns power to the Senate. In response, the Senate grants him the title Augustus. This is where Augustus comes in. He is now Augustus. He has control over key provinces and their armies. That's the beginning of the Principate. In 23 BCE, the second settlement. Augustus resigns consulship and gains Imperius Maius. Imperium Maius, which is supreme command over provinces. Tribunation? Whatever, the power that the tribunes have. So he had the power to veto and propose laws. These powers just ensured lifelong control without dictatorship. And yeah, he basically just consolidated his power from then. He did a bunch of political reforms, military reforms, but he was emperor. He was emperor. And that's the end of that video essay. This one has been a bit jumbled because I'm still kind of trying to wrap my head around this timeline. I feel like I don't understand it as well. But the key, I feel like I like the first half of this section better because I get it. Like, it makes sense to me. Whereas the whole I don't know, the shit that Mark Antony was doing was just generally weird. And then Lepidus just kind of got sent off to deal with the pirates at some point and he never came back. Notice how I stopped mentioning him at some point? No, exactly, you didn't, because he doesn't matter. I didn't even notice I stopped mentioning him. Yeah, but he gets sent off to deal with the pirates at some point and just doesn't come back. He just dies. And no one cares. They literally did not fuck with that guy. But yeah, Augustus. Also, another key thing that Augustus did was he kind of did everything Caesar did but better, because he relied very heavily on propaganda against Mark Antony. And so he was out here telling everyone, Mark Antony's wearing eyeliner, Mark Antony's literally a femboy, Mark Antony's marrying a foreign woman, bro, he's not Roman, and he's also gay. And that was his tactic, and it worked. The Roman people did not fuck with him, and neither did his army, which, fair fucking enough, he left you in the middle of a battle. Battle of Actium, more like fucking Battle of bitch. Using the ships your fucking sugar mummy gave you as well, bitch. Also, there is a legend that Mark Antony, this is not in the textbook at all, this is something I found on my own, but there's a legend that Mark Antony was once climbing up a tree to go visit one of his male lovers when he was younger, and he got stuck, and he got found by some guards in the morning. Which is embarrassing for him. I don't think I like a single one of these figures in any of these, I just don't like any of them. They're not my vibe. If my favorite one would probably be Marius, because I feel like I just have a spiritual connection to believing in Marius's importance. I just think that Marius kind of he left an impression, bitch. Sulla dug up his bones and chucked him somewhere. Okay, fan behavior, the fuck? You're mad because I took your Mithridatic campaign. You're so mad you had to march on Rome, ho? Anyway, that's the wrong bit of content for this video essay. But in conclusion, this is a bit of a jumble up of stuff. If this helped, maybe it did. I don't know. This is why we have the Third Triumvirate podcast. Because when we sit down with me, Lana, and Kara, it'll make a lot more sense. Because I won't be just confused the entire time. But I think I have it down basically. Mark Antony had Caesar's control, and then he blah, 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 and he got the army, and then Caesar was like, take the army, Octavian. Octavian was like, yeah, army, come here. And the army was like, okay. That makes sense to me. Remembering which Brutus is which, though, is so annoying. There's Decimus and fucking Marcus Brutus or whatever. I've already got a mark. Once again, it's your queen of forgetting to do outros. But, hey. Catch you on the next one, guys. Cue the music!